Everyone has heard of the 10 Commandments, the list of thou shalt nots found in the Bible. Jesus saw in these commandments not onerous burdens, but guardrails and guideposts designed to help us experience the good and beautiful life. Words that set safe boundaries, create order out of chaos, help communities live peacefully, and protect us, often from ourselves. Every thou shalt not was intended to point to a life-giving thou shalt. These ancient words were given by a loving God who longed to protect us from harm while pointing toward the keys to a deeply meaningful and joyful life. Join us as we read the 10 Commandments through the eyes of Jesus.
I grew up in Indianapolis, and I went to high school. I lived on the west side of Indianapolis. Went to Ben Davis High School. Go Giants! I went to church, though, on the north side of Indianapolis, and every Sunday night was youth group, and oftentimes after youth group was over, you would hang out for a lot longer. You'd go out as teenagers and hang out, and then I'd have to drive home, which it was about a 30-minute drive from the north side of Indianapolis to the west side of Indianapolis. That shows you how small, Lansing is, because you can get across Lansing and back in 30 minutes, right? But in Indianapolis, you can only get from the north side to the west side. And 465 is the big highway that goes around. It circles around all of Indianapolis. And one night as I was driving home from northern Indianapolis to the west side of Indianapolis, I'm going around the bank that 465 turns west and it goes south. And it's like the Indianapolis 500. I mean, it is banked because you're going like 70 miles an hour, like going west and then all of a sudden turning south. Except that it was late at night and I was getting tired, and before I knew it, I had dozed off going around this corner, and I crossed the white line and I hit the rumble strips, and the rumble strips woke me up. But I was going too fast at that point to stay on the highway, and so I shot off of the highway, off of the pavement, over the embankment. There weren't any guardrails right there, into the grass. I slammed on the brakes. I went through a mile marker at that moment, snapped the mile marker off at the base of it. It shot up in the air, it hit the back of my car, and I came to a stop right in between two trees. Is anybody grateful that I'm alive today? Yeah, my heart gets... From that day on, I don't even try to drive if I'm tired. I will pull over on the side of the highway and take a nap before I keep driving. And today we are starting this series called the 10 Commandments. Insert Charlton Heston. These 10 Commandments, right? And the 10 Commandments are kind of rumble strips. They're guardrails. They're white lines on the side of the road to make sure that you stay on the path that is good and beautiful for life. Behind every thou shalt not is a thou shalt for what the good and beautiful life looks like. Now, throughout this series, we're going to be looking at the 10 Commandments through the eyes of Jesus. So how does Jesus reflect on and continue the tradition and teaching of the 10 Commandments? And in your program, you found a bookmark, I hope, in the midst of all of those things, that has a simplified version of the 10 Commandments in it. And we want to encourage you to take that home, put it by a bedside table, put it at your kitchen table, put it somewhere, wherever it is that you will use it, and we want to challenge you over the next 10 weeks to memorize these 10 Commandments. This is a simplified version of them, okay? So we're going to make sure that we know the 10 Commandments by the end of these 10 weeks. Now, today is also not just starting this new series, but as I mentioned already, the adoption of Asbury United Methodist Church takes full effect today. Woo, isn't that awesome? And you may wonder, what is this copper pot that's up here? Like, if you're at Sycamore Creek, you've never seen this before, but if you're from Asbury, this has a tradition, it has a history behind it. And it was handmade from overseas, and it is a pot that they would take offerings, particularly for food ministries from. And so this is a symbol here up front today of something that's part of Asbury's culture, part of what is important and valued to the folks at Asbury that they bring with us today. Now at Potterville, our Potterville campus, we have had a licensed kitchen. We've done a lot of food ministry. Our South Lansing campus is more likely to order pizza or Subway or Willie D's out back. But food ministry has been really important to Asbury in feeding people. So this is a symbol here today of that. And you might think, what does the Ten Commandments have to do with adopting a church? And I'm actually really curious about that too, because every week I've asked each of the teachers to take whatever commandment they're teaching about and to apply it in some way to this Asbury adoption. And when I think about it as a whole, the Ten Commandments in some ways are a little bit like going back to the basics, right? It's like, this is a football. This is how you throw a football. This is how you catch a football. We're going back to, this is the simple things, the 10 simple things, thou shalt nots and thou shalts, about how we do life together. And in that sense, I think it's a great series for us to do this adoption now. All right. In our messages here at Sycamore Creek, and I understand Asbury has done this as well leading up to this through Pastor John Polis. By the way, you can find that bookmark, a digital version of it, at sycamorecreekchurch.org/10 Commandments, and you can download that and use it at home as well. In our messages, we teach them in segments separated by some discussion questions. So we try to be really engaging, kind of a dialogue here. Like, I'm not the only person that God speaks to. God speaks to you too. So what we want you to do is we want you to turn to a neighbor, and here's a question for you. What's your experience with the Ten Commandments? The good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to give you about 90 seconds to talk about that with somebody next to you. If you're Sycamore Creek, don't let anybody sit by themselves, okay? All right, so you may need to move, or there may be plenty of neighbors right around you, but here's your 90 seconds. If you're online, chat in the comments. We'd love to hear your comments. Let's talk about what your experience with the Ten Commandments.